You know, in terms of Nintendo emulators, it has really been a wild past year. We kind of lost 3 of the OGs. We lost Citra, we lost Yuzu, and we lost Ryujinx. Citra was mainly, I believe, a 3DS emulator, whereas Yuzu and Ryujinx, or Ryujinx, however you actually say it, they were Switch emulators. Now, Yuzu, the takedown for that happened actually about a year ago. Yeah, time flies when you're having fun. This actually got taken down, it looks like on March 4th of last year. And then Ryujinx got taken down a few months after that in October. Now, I guess it kind of depends who you ask, but I think generally speaking, Yuzu was definitely the most well-known, probably the most used Nintendo Switch emulator, and then when they were taken down, that's when Ryujinx really stepped up to the plate. They really got popular. So that's obviously probably why Nintendo targeted them next. Now, here's the thing. With all of these emulators getting taken down, I do remember every time I made a video of one of these takedowns, you know, I'm not like extremely familiar with how these takedowns work, but a lot of people would make comments on these videos, basically saying, you know, this is going to lead to a lot of people making like repositories or copies or forks of these emulators to keep them alive. And well, it turns out now we are about a year later, a year after Yuzu got taken down. That kind of began the whole downfall of a lot of these emulators, and now a year later, it would seem that, yeah, there are a lot of these repositories that are living on GitHub. So much so that over 4,000 of them just got taken down from Nintendo. Yeah, this was about a week or 2 ago on February 26th, so pretty much just 1 year shy of the anniversary of Yuzu getting taken down. So people eventually caught on to these DMCA takedown requests on GitHub. So there are 2 from Nintendo. I did link them both in the description. Now, the reason I'm saying over 4,000 is because of this right here on the first DMCA takedown. So it says, because the reported network that contained the allegedly infringing content was larger than 100 repositories, and the submitter alleged that all or most of the forks were infringing to the same extent as the parent repository, GitHub processed the takedown notice against the entire network of 4,238 repositories, inclusive of the parent repository. So yeah, that is obviously quite a bit of repositories or forks. I'll be honest, I've never been quite familiar with the difference between those 2 terms. I think they're kind of, they go hand in hand, I believe. Essentially, like I said, these are just copies of emulators. Now, in this case, these were all copies of the Ryujinx emulator. So yeah, this is over 4,000 copies of this one emulator. Basically, people are trying to keep the source code of this emulator alive, just as those comments on my videos said. So, you know, whoever made those comments, they definitely were not lying. I mean, yeah, people are definitely making an effort to keep these alive, but Nintendo is also putting their effort in. It would seem that they have taken down quite a bit of these forks. And kind of to understand how these takedown notices work, I went on to this Torrent Freak article. I won't read all of this, but essentially it sounds like GitHub really takes it seriously, especially when it is Nintendo or kind of a known company who does this sort of thing, because, you know, they really don't make bogus claims. So it kind of sounds like when Nintendo submits a takedown notice or a DMCA takedown notice, it basically gets taken down right away. So yes, that is pretty much goodbye to all of these forks. I'm not saying, you know, they have been completely annihilated, you know, just wiped, you know, Thanos snapped from the face of the internet. You know, they're still out there, I'm sure, but this is a big hit to the emulation community. There is no doubt about that. It's very clear that going forward, Nintendo is going to keep this effort alive, especially when they are going to launch the Nintendo Switch 2 console very soon. And Torrent Freak did kind of summarize it in a couple sentences here at the end of the article with the Switch 2. They said essentially the Yuzu lawsuit did not change a thing under law, but may have succeeded in shaping perceptions of the emulation landscape. Whether that will actually reduce Switch 2 piracy will remain to be seen. Yeah, I think that summarizes it pretty good. You know, on one hand, Nintendo didn't actually do like, you know, some crazy thing. You know, they didn't go to like the Supreme Court, you know, or change, you know, something crazy with the law with these, you know, takedowns of Yuzu and Ryujinx and Citra. But in the past year, I think with all of these takedowns, they've really changed the perception of emulation, or at the very least emulating consoles that, you know, are current gen. Obviously, Nintendo really isn't going after Nintendo 64 or Game Boy emulators these days, but it's very clear that as far as emulators go for consoles that are current gen, Nintendo will very likely target them. So this is very interesting as we look toward the Switch 2 very soon getting released.